EO Dallas, how we doing? Welcome to another episode of Connecting the Journey. Really excited about our guest today. We just met a couple weeks ago and we hit it off like gangbusters. But just want to remind you about the premise of the show. As entrepreneurs, we're always looking forward. We're always looking to that next big thing, and very seldom do we look back and see those God-wink moments that got us where we are here today, and really so we can move forward with gratitude. And that was more evident than anything with our guest, Mr. Bob Baumann of the House of Baumann in Addison, Texas, and an EO alumni member from 95 to 2005, right?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
About 10 years. Me and Bob met about a week ago, and man, I'll tell you, the gratitude effect was front and center. It was awesome. I wish we would have had a camera there when we met. We were supposed to meet for 30 minutes. We ended up spending an hour and a half together. So really great to meet you, man, and welcome to the show.
It's an honor to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, excited to have you here, man. So let's talk about, let's start with EO. So you were in EO from 95 to
2005.
About 10 years.
I'm getting old. It's hard to remember all those dates. But yeah, I was in it for a good 10 years. Our forum group was unbelievable. I think we always had the best group. I'm sure everybody thinks that. But I mean, our whole group was probably together a good solid 10 years. And, you know, it was just, I learned so much from it.
You learn so much from your forum because you get that different perspective. But, you know, when things maybe aren't going right, it's really good to have 8 guys that you can call up and they're there to help you.
Absolutely. You know, for me it was, I never went to college. And so, one of the things I noticed as I grew up blue collar, but as I started working and had to start dressing in a suit, white collar, I started realizing a lot of my friends, they had the relationships they had from college. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, 40 years later, they still have their very best friends from college. And that's something I did not have. And that's what EO gave me, without a doubt. And I built those strong relationships, and I still have them to this day.
Yeah, my wife refers to EO as, in the early days, as your business fraternity.
Right.
And that's really what it is. I mean, it's a brotherhood of your closest friends, and they're there for you for life. And, as we talked about, kind of some of the history of EO, you brought up names that you've, known for 20 plus years.
Right.
And so those relationships are really cemented and formed because, as you know, form's that 5% of things you don't tell anybody, good or bad. So a lot of things come out in that.
Well, and what was really good for me is, I just one day decided to start my company. I had no fashion background. I'd never worked anything in retail. I just knew I loved clothes, and I knew how clothes change people's lives. So I just had an idea one day. I decided I wanted to start this business. I started it, had no idea what I was doing. My dad always said, Bob Jr., fake it till you make it. I'm still faking it. I hope one day to make it. But being able to be an EO, I could go in and ask those questions about how do you do this, how do you do that? And that's where I gained so much knowledge on how to run my company.
And the funny thing about EO, you talk about fake it till you make it. You just, especially in the early days when you start out, you're around people that have huge businesses in Dallas, right? And you get around them and you realize they're just as fucked up as you are, right? Everybody, we all have this disease of entrepreneurship, and it's the same with everybody, no matter if you got a $100,000 business or a $100 million business.
Yeah, we all have our challenges, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I used to always think it's just me, and sometimes I still think it's just me. Why do I have this? Why am I dealing with this? So on and so forth. But then you get on the phone, you start talking to other friends, and sure enough, they're going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
And this just, EO just puts you around those people.
Right.
I talk about EO just being around my people.
Right.
The walls are immediately down. Like, that's one of the coolest things in EO, I think, is that globally, if you're at an EO event, the BS is gone. Like, the walls are down and people are open and honest and transparent, and that's what's really cool about EO, I think.
I had mentioned earlier, our group was together. There was 12 of us, and we were together a long time. And I'll never forget, over probably about 6 months, we had 3 people that had left the group for whatever reasons, moving, relocating. They had aged out. And so we had to find 3 new members. And it was really difficult because we were family. and we could walk in that room and talk about anything. And when you have somebody in the room that you don't know, all the guards are up. And so it took us probably another 3-4 months at least to get comfortable with the new members and be able to start opening up again. And so yeah, all the guards are down. You do talk what's going on in your business life, your personal life, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and good or bad. There's not, if you got a huge win, there may not be a group of people you can go and share that win with without coming across a certain way, right? And so just good or bad, it's a 5% that you don't share with anybody.
Right.
So, well, let's talk about your journey, right? So what, did you have an entrepreneur background, family? You said you was blue collar family, but how'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up blue collar. I drove 18-wheelers till I was 26 years old.
That's about as blue collar as it gets.
Yeah. I knew I was successful. I was a great father when I was driving down LBJ, and my 5-year-old daughter sitting in the back seat, and she's like, Dad, look at that 18-wheeler, look at that one. And I'm like, that's a good looking one. But so no, I drove 18-wheelers, and when I was 9, I'd had a brother die. And when I was 26, my mom died. And I was raised in the church. I believe in God. But at that time in my life, I was like, okay, if this is what it's all about, I'm not interested. And I literally was in a downward spiral. I make no bones about it. My mother was the love of my life. And to lose her at such a young age, it was devastating. So a friend of mine asked me if I had ever heard of Zig Ziglar. And I had no idea who he was talking about. And so by the grace of God, he knew this man. And he took me and introduced me to this guy. And I sat across this desk, just like you and I are sitting right now. And, he talked to me, had a lot of great thoughts, a lot of great ideas. But the bottom line, he said, there's no doubt you've been dealt a bad hand. He says, and what you've gone through in the first 26 years of your life, most people will never go through in the first 60 years of their life. And he says, but you have a choice to make. Who's going to determine your future? Are your circumstances going to determine it, or are you going to determine it? And so I walked out of his office just dumbfounded. And I was taken away with the things he said. I totally believed in everything he said. I trusted him. I knew he had a point. I knew he was right. And I could sit there and feel sorry for myself, or I could get on with my life and make it happen. And so my mother died on Thursday, July 10th, 1986. And on Monday, October 13th, 1986, I'd begged that man to hire me, and I went to work for Zig Ziglar. So.
That's an amazing story. Everybody knows the name,
Right.
I think, but what was he like? And this was, what year was this?
1986.
And so this in his, he'd been in business, been around for 10, 15, 20 years, or is this more earlier on?
I'm sure he'd been around at least 15 years. I know this much. He'd been around long enough that his minimum speaking fee for 1 hour was $50,000.
Okay, so he's been around for a while, 10, 15 years, yeah.
He had written plenty of books.
Yeah.
And, Zig was the real deal. That's what I loved about him. If you walked up, he could walk off stage, and he would speak of crowds of 1,000 or crowds of 100,000. And if he walked off stage and you walked up to talk to him, you'd be the only person in the room. And he would sit there and focus on you and talk to you. And he had 2 quotes that became my favorite quotes that was truly his life. And I can honestly say it truly is my life. And it's what I've done to run my company. And the number one favorite quote of his was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you think about it, I could care less if you have all the questions in the world. If I don't think you care, it means nothing to me. But when I realize how sincere you are and you really do care, that's when I'm interested.
Yeah.
And so Zig really cared about every person in the room. And then the second quote is, you can have everything you want in life And I truly do mean everything if you help enough other people get what they want out of life. And that's been my whole business is, we're not in the clothing business. We change people's lives. And so when somebody comes in and sees us and we sit down and we interview them, we want to know everything about them. Are they married? Are they single? Do they have children? If so, what ages? Where do they go on vacation? What are their hobbies? Just how long they've been at their job. Where do they see themselves in 5 years? That's an interesting question. I challenge people all the time, look at people and say, tell me, where do you plan on being 5 years from now? And most people can never answer that question.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't even tell you where they plan on being in 2 years. And so, so once we get into a guy's head and really figure out who he is, we dress the man, the personality. We just don't dress everybody the same. But once we start dressing him, we truly change his life. He sees himself totally different. He's never had clothes fit him the way they fit, styled the way they styled. And when he looks in the mirror, he's a totally different person. And when you feel like $1 million, you start acting like $1 million.
And it's a very personal thing.
It is. It is.
To dress somebody. I'm sure you're in people's closets, you're in their home, once you get to a level where you're, maybe coming to their house, it's a very personal thing.
Right. Another thing that's great is, we play a big part in some of the greatest memories of our clients. Whether it's the big promotion they got wearing that new outfit, or their son's wedding, or whatever it may be that we made the outfit for.
Yeah. So what was your first day like with Zig? You said you begged him to hire you. I'm guessing he hired you. So what was that like?
Well, he threatened me.
But not screw this up.
I walked in and I said, hi, I'm here to see Zig. And so they call him, he comes out, Bob, good to see you. He says, ladies, I want you to meet our newest salesman. So he introduced me, I had 2 receptionists up front. And then he says, come on, I want you to meet the team. So we go through the side door, and he had about 150 employees. He had 100 salespeople. As we go to that door, he stops and puts his arm around me. He says, son, let me tell you something. You better make it happen, because I have everybody in this company questioning why I hired a truck driver as our next salesperson. So I'm not in the business of letting people down. So I got after it and made it happen.
You crushed it, I'm guessing. I'm assuming you crushed it?
Well, so 2 weeks after I started, from that day forward, I was always his #1 salesman. And I have the record of being the best salesman ever in the company.
Wow.
And, it's funny because, I won every contest. I was Salesman of the Year all the time and stuff. But what's really funny is that he did a contest once, and they called it a triathlon. And it was like, who could make the most calls, who could make the most presentations, and who could make the most sales. So it was a combination of all 3. And I won it. And so, I got this big gold medal and, the ribbon that goes around everything, and they put it on a plaque and everything, and it hangs in my office to this day. And clients come in, they'll be sitting there and talking to me, and they're like, dude, you won a triathlon? I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, So the hardest part was the swimming. The riding the bikes and running, that was a piece of cake.
That's funny. So how long did you stay there?
Stayed there 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
And then how in the world did you get into the clothing business? And I'm going to point out that, that you started, because I made the same mistake that maybe some other folks say is, who's Edward? Is that your dad?
Yeah, Edward.
I'm
Edward.
Who's that, right? So how'd you get into the clothing business?
Well, I took another job, and so I started making stupid money. And so to reward myself, if I was the salesman of the month, I would go down to Neiman's and buy a new outfit. New suit, shirt, tie. And so I was always salesman of the month, probably 9 out of 12 months.
Yeah.
And I saw, again, how it totally changed me, how people perceived me. I was working for a gentleman who was a billionaire. And I'd be in my office, and all of a sudden the door would open up, be a short knock. And the door opens, and he'd walk in, and I'd be on the phone, and he'd sit down talking about sweating. Like, dude, you better buy because this guy's looking at me right now. So, I mean, you got to say yes. And so Carl would just sit there and watch me. And when I'd hang up, he'd say, Baumann, stand up. I want to see what you got on. And I'd stand up. He goes, son, I'm paying you too much money because you dress better than me. And so how does that make you feel? And I get people calling me all the time. I can never go 48 hours of my life, ever, without somebody calling me and telling me about something that happened in a new outfit that day.
Yeah.
And, and so that, I just knew I had an idea. And, when I worked for Zig, we changed lives. When I worked for Westcott, we changed lives. And the clothing changed lives. And that's why I got into it. It's not to sell clothes, but to change people's lives.
That's interesting, yeah, because there's so many times you can look back. You talk about the memories, but dressing the part, putting the suit on, whatever it is, it changes your attitude, it changes your mindset, completely. But how did it start? Like, you go from Zig to another job, and now you're in the clothing business.
Back in those days, everybody wore ties.
Yep.
So the company I started was called Around Your Neck. And I had an idea. And the idea was, what if I went to someone's office, like your office, and let's say I knew you, and you work whatever firm, and there's at least 50 men in that office in suits. So my idea was, what would happen if I could get in touch with you, and you could get me an appointment and give me the conference room for 1 hour. And I would bring 300 ties in, and I would set them up on the conference table. Everybody got a memo. I was going to be there Thursday from 2 to 3. And all the ties were $20 each, or 3 for $50. And so my very first appointment was with Northwestern Mutual here in Dallas. And I was still working for Westcott. But I snuck out of the office. And I walked in there, and in 1 hour, we sold 72 ties.
Wow.
And this is the greatest thing about EO. Life is one thing alone. It's relationships. It's the people you know.
Yep.
And so the guy that got me in there, it was a buying frenzy. I mean, they probably had 100 guys in the office. And I mean, you could barely get in the room. And he saw this, and he said, when you're done, come down to my office. I want to talk to you. So when I was finished, I packed up, I went to his office, and he looked at me, he says, dude, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. He says, I think you're onto something. And he handed me a legal pad. And on that legal pad, he had written down 50 names, their phone numbers, and how he knew them.
Wow.
And he says, I want to help you get started. And I'm like, this is gold. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. He says, but hang on, give it to me. And I hand it back. He says,
like, oh,
yeah.
I don't really want to do that.
What do you want? And so I handed it back to him. He says, you can't. He took it. He says, you can't have it. I said, what do you mean I can't have it? And he picked up a piece of paper and he handed it to me. And he had gone to the copier and copied off the top 10 names. He says, I'm only going to give you 10. You and I are going to have lunch a week from today. And I want you to tell me what you did with those 10 names. So a week later, we had lunch. I'd already had appointments with 3 of them. Already met with them, had sales, had appointments with 3 others. I had 2 that said no, and I had 2 that I still had not gotten on the phone. And he handed me my next 10. He says, we'll have lunch again a week from today. And that's how I got the company started. It was May 1st, 1991. On Thanksgiving Day, we're on the front cover of the Dallas paper. We're selling more neckwear in Dallas than Neiman's and Macy's.
So how long before you quit the other job and went full time? This was a side hustle for a minute.
Yes.
When did you pull the trigger and pull the ripcord?
Well, as entrepreneurs, we do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, one of the greatest things I ever did is, so when I decided to do this, I met this gentleman that was in the neckwear industry, and I bought $7,000 worth of ties over a dinner. And so I had them all shipped to my house. And I mean, I literally had, my game room was full of ties on the floor. And I got to throw this out. I was single, I was dating this girl. She comes over and she's like, wow, you must really like ties. I I said, hey, I only wear them once each. I throw them away, So you got to have a new tie every day. But everybody at the office was noticing, dude, you always have on new ties. I'm like, well, I got this friend. And so I told them who it was. I have this friend and what he does, but they didn't know it was me. And so I got one of my best friends in the world, Mickey Vance. And I called him up. Mickey was a banker. And Mickey met me across the street. And I gave him all the ties, the credit card machine, everything. And he shows up at our company where I work to have a big tie sale for all the guys in the office. And
While you're still working?
While I'm still working there. And I'll never forget guys in the room, how much money are you making off of this, Baumann? And I'm like, if you only knew, So it was probably about a month, 2 months later, I'd done a few more and it was just off the charts. And I knew I was onto something. 3 years, I had 17 offices in the United States. We were selling from October 1st till December 20th, we'd sell 5,000 ties a day. And we were one of the largest players in the industry.
And how did you set that up? You said offices. You had brick and mortar, or you had like outside sales folks that just, went and sold?
An office, but an office because everybody was outside sales.
Yeah.
So we would go to the customers' offices.
Okay.
And it was great. And then it's probably 98, I'd realized that I did not like managing people.
Yeah. How many people did you get up to?
77.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I got out of bed every day and I did one thing alone. And that was put out fires. Mm-hmm. And so I sold the company, went home, sat in my backyard and cried. Felt like I was a failure.
You had a bunch of money in the bank?
Well, I didn't make a lot, but I did okay. And I was allowed to keep the Dallas office.
Oh, nice.
But I was still, literally, I figured I'd have 100 offices in the U.S. one day. Mm-hmm. And, but I really wanted to, it was tough. It was a tough time in my life. But I also knew I wanted to go high end. I mean, we'd started selling shirts after the first year. A year or two later, we started selling off-the-rack suits. But I thought, and I'd rather sell a guy a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 suit than a $20 tie.
Yeah.
And so I jumped back in it, downsized my office dramatically, and here we are today.
How'd your form help you through that time? 98, so you're smack dab in the middle of EO.
Wisdom. Mm-hmm. Wisdom.
Somebody's been there, done that.
Legal advice, the right people to talk to, realizing your weaknesses, your strengths. Just like you said, you talk to the people in the room like you talk to nobody else.
Yep.
You share stories in there that you don't even share with your family. And so it was very, very helpful. Very, very helpful.
Yeah. If it's not somebody in the room that's been there through that, they know somebody, right? And so you're able to experience, share, and know that everything's going to be okay. And, that, you're sitting in the backyard crying after you just sold your business, and it's going to be a better day tomorrow.
Right.
It's a new chapter in your life.
Right.
So went selling $20 neckties to $5,000 suits, downsized dramatically. And did you open up here in Addison? Have you been there?
Yeah, I'd always been in Addison, but I found this building, and it was one of the most famous buildings in Addison. It's on the corner of Addison Road and Arapahoe Road, 3-story red brick, old Chicago-style building. We moved in there, took the whole building, and just took off. My goal was to create an environment that nobody else had. Yeah. And so when people walked in our space, it's not a store. We're not open to the public. It's by appointment only. We don't have a bunch of clothes just laying out everywhere. And we have private showrooms, and we take the client into the private room, and the focus is totally on them. And so no one else is interrupting. No one's saying, hey, where are your socks, or where's your restroom, or whatever. It's just one-on-one. And so when I just recently built my new building, I just built a 5-story building, literally across the street. My goal there was to create something the world's never seen before. And the number one reason luxury consumer makes a purchase is the experience. And so our goal was to provide an experience like nobody else. And I feel like we've accomplished that.
Yeah, we'll get to the building. The story behind the building's amazing. The building's amazing, but that's a big shift from selling ties in a conference room to creating this tailored experience. Like where'd that come from? Like a lot of times we look to the past of what somebody's taught us or whatever, what we learned from, but where'd that, now, not at y'all's level, but it's become a little bit more common, but then there was nothing, right? I'm sure you're going to Neiman's or Men's Warehouse or something like that,
right.
And you're not getting that high-end experience. Where'd that idea come from to really create that experience for the customer?
Well, that's a great question. And so we went to our customers for the first 20 years. And I just knew in my heart there was a better way. And I also knew in the way we were doing it, as far as I'm concerned, I thought it sucked. Because we go into a guy's office and you're showing him fabrics, whatever, the lighting's poor. Mm-hmm. When you deliver the clothes, you're laying them on his desk. If he wants to see how he looks, he's got to go to the restroom, to look in the mirror and all that. And I didn't like it. It was really funny because I just knew if I created this space that had the wow factor, and it was a roll of the dice. Clear as day, as entrepreneurs, we decided to take that next step, and it's a big leap. One of our EO friends is going through it right now, spending millions of dollars on a new concept, hoping it's going to make it. Mm-hmm. And so when I decided to do this, I'd gone to all my customers. We'd gone to them for 20 years, and now we're going to ask them to come see us. And so one of my greatest mentors, I was having lunch with him. I'll never forget the day I died. We're at the Ritz-Carlton at Farring's having dinner. And I looked at him, I said, Daryl, I got an idea, and I want your opinion. And I told him the idea. Create this place, you walk in, it's just unbelievable. And described it and everything. And he looked at me and says, okay, let me get this straight. So if I want to buy a suit from you, basically all I got to do is turn around in my chair and get up and walk over to my conference table about 5 feet. And you're sitting there and you'll show me some stuff and I can buy my suit. But now you're telling me I need to get in my car, drive 15 minutes to Addison, walk in and sit there. You're going to show me fabrics. I'm going to buy a suit. And then I've got to drive back to my office. So I'm gone over an hour. I said, yeah. He goes, I think it's the stupidest idea in the world. And he was so relentless that after about a minute, it seemed like eternity. Yeah. He was not laying off at all. His wife finally looked at him and said, Daryl, enough. Enough. He goes, well, it's your problem. He asked my opinion. She says, we all got your opinion. We got it. And so I thought, oh my God. And I said, we'll still come to you. So we built it. We had the grand opening. And this is what I love again about, our EO friends, our relationships, our mentors. The day after the grand opening, 8 a.m., who calls me? Daryl. And Daryl says, Bob, I want to make an appointment. I said, Daryl, look, you don't need to make an appointment. I'm going to come see you. He goes, no, I want to make an appointment. I said, Daryl, you made yourself very clear that night at Farring's. So you don't need to come see me. He says, no, I want to come see you. I said, why? Because I didn't want him to.
You don't want any pity.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't want pity.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? He says, did you see that place? Did you see how cool it is? He says, it's the coolest place I've ever seen. I want to make an appointment. I'm like, okay. And this guy comes by once every 3 weeks just to see what's new. And it's sort of like a reward. He wants to get out of the office.
Yeah.
So he'll come see us, see what's going on, what's new. So that's how we made the big leap. And it worked out. And there was only one customer that I would continue to go see. And I'll tell you who it was. And I dress a lot of famous people. And this one's famous. But I go see him, I think, because of his age. And he just wanted me to. It was Ross Perot. And so I'd still go to his office. And to be honest with you, I liked going to his office. You know, he had his own Smithsonian there. So
I'm sure it was amazing.
I enjoyed going there.
Yeah.
So,
how long were your visits with him? Probably longer than average?
I mean, he would, it's the things you learn from those who have gone before you. Mm-hmm. And he was so gracious. I mean, first time I ever met with him, he spent 2 hours with me.
Wow.
Yeah. And a typical visit with him would be an hour.
Yeah.
And it'd be more talking. You know, any of my visits, you can come see me and we can do your whole wardrobe in 15 minutes. But we'll spend an hour talking about life, family, kids, challenges, the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah. And then we're like, okay, what do you want to get?
Yeah, by the way, let's get some. Yeah, and I think, you know, it's a little bit of the build it and they will come type of deal.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you built this amazing experience, and, you know, the people you dress are amazing, right? They're the 1% of the 1% that want that experience, and you have an amazing relationship with them because, again, it's personal. It's
right.
an experience, you know. And with my company, I don't like the word service because service is expected and an experience isn't. And when
right.
you give somebody experience, you connect with them on an emotional level, and they're like, they're yours, right?
Absolutely.
That's what you want to connect on, and you built that. So what have you, I'll ask you this question. You're very humble on who you dress, but you dress a lot of billionaires. So what's your biggest piece of advice that you've gotten over the years from your clients?
Oh my God.
I know that's a tough one. Sorry to throw that on.
Biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. Maybe not just like, maybe not biggest, but what's some good ones?
You know, I mean, advice.
Because you think about, like, you're connecting with these guys on a super personal level, right? You're dressing them. That's about as personal as you can get, right? And so you don't talk about letting their walls down. I just think it's probably really unique that you get to spend this intimate time with these guys, and like the takeaways from that, you know, it's like they're just like everybody else, well, right? They're no different.
That's what I was just about to say. I don't think it's so much the advice.
Perspective.
I think it's that when you're around them, you be yourself. You be real. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not, you treat them like you treat anybody else. And see, that's what they want.
And they can be themselves.
Right. They want not, oh, yes, sir, Mr. So-and-so, let me get that for you. No, they want you to be real.
Yeah.
And they probably don't get a lot of that. They're used to just people just sitting there sucking up to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, now and then, don't get me wrong, I do tell my staff, hey, so-and-so's coming in, we're going to have to do some major sucking up.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But that's really not where it's at. I mean, it's just being yourself, being real, listening to them, and meeting their needs, you know. You know, you let them, you know, the billionaires, you don't call them, they'll call you.
Yeah.
And when they're ready, they'll call you. And they're no different than you and me.
Yeah, just
you know.
Yeah, it's a different perspective I think you see from the other side, and like, again, like they just want to be, they're just another person.
Just want to be treated like another person.
Yeah, and not have all the hoopla and stuff.
Right.
And you create that experience. It's a
right.
very intimate experience, and I'll tell you, you know, I think I went to the old location.
Right.
But man, this new location, like, I walked in and I was blown away. I mean, I think my question was like, how long have you been collecting all this stuff? Because it's so unique. Every piece of art or decor in there is super unique, you know. And so the level of detail was amazing. Was amazing. So let's tell the story about let's talk about the building. The building is awesome. I think you told the story on how you got it and all that, but you know, what was your vision for that? And you're open, what, about a year now?
No, we opened January.
Okay, so a couple of
months. Yeah, we moved in over the holidays.
Yeah.
You know, I just, I knew that one day the building I was in, they were going to tear it down. Mm-hmm. and because Addison's redeveloping the whole area. And so about 8 years ago, I bought some land across the street, knowing one day I would build there. And
Can't skip that. Let's talk about how you got the land.
how I got the land.
Because that's a,
Well,
I mean, that's a crazy thing.
yeah,
Crazy. If you sit back and look at it, right?
I think it's a God thing.
It's a God wink moment. Absolutely.
You know, so I tried to buy this. There's a great piece of land across the street, and I tried to buy it for 2 years. Guy would not sell it to me, and he owned the hotel next to it, and he owned this land to expand the hotel one day. And I'd go in there, and he'd be like he wanted to sell it, but I just couldn't get him to do it. And so after 2 years, I just, to heck with this. So I started looking for other property, and to me, the location's so important. And so one day I was going to lunch, and I thought, what the heck? It had been 6 months since I talked to him. So I whipped into the front of the hotel and walked in the front door. I said, yeah, let me speak to Muhammad. And I said, is Muhammad here? And the receptionist looked at me and she says, who? I said, Muhammad. And in my mind, I thought, the guy that owns the hotel, you idiot. I'm not lying. That's what I thought. And she goes, who? I said, the guy that owns the hotel, Muhammad. She goes, Muhammad doesn't own the hotel. I said, well, then who owns it? She goes, Max. And I said, well, is he here? And what she did next, if one of my employees did it, I'd fire him.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, just around the corner, third door on the right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
just walk in.
okay,
No
great.
No clue who you are.
So I go around the corner, I knock on the door, the guy says, come in. I walk in, I said, Max, my name's Bob Baumann. How are you today? I said, he says, I'm fine. I said, so you own the hotel? He says, yeah. I said, so since when did you own it? He says, well, I actually bought it about 4 months ago. And I said, really? And that right then and there clicked to me why the other guy did not sell it. Because unbeknownst to me, he was trying to sell the hotel. And I said, really? I said, well, let me ask you a question. How'd you like to sell the land that's next to you? He goes, I'd love to sell it. He says, I didn't want it in the first place, but I did a 1031 exchange. You only have 90 days, and I couldn't break it out of the loan, so I had no choice. And so I ended up buying the land for $125,000 less than what I'd been offering the other guy for 2.5 years. So,
I mean, that's one of those moments, man. What if you just drove by?
Right. Right.
And I mean, and the fact that he needed to sell it is huge, right? And that kicks off the vision of the building. The building is ridiculous. I knew that the building was going to be special. Number one, from looking at the location. But when I got out of the car and opened up the door, there's these little plackets, or I don't know, there's probably a name for them. Instead of, the ugly yellow or the line, the stripes, there's these cool, like antique looking, pieces of art. Really, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Right?
Yeah, instead of having stripes in the parking lot, I got these really good looking, cool looking medallions, I guess you could call
medallions,
them.
Yeah.
And we mounted them, and that's the stripes. And then on the front sidewalk, right in front of the front door, I had a gentleman make a bunch of steel pieces of like a hat, a tie, a man in a suit, a tape measure, scissors, all kinds of stuff. And we embedded it all in the concrete in front of the building.
I saw that too.
And so I just literally, whenever I would travel and I'd see a building I like, I'd take a picture of it. And I did that for like 8 years. That building, the idea, in my mind was before I ever even bought the land. And when I sat down with my architect about the third meeting we had, he said, dude, you're the most prepared person I've ever met with in my life. And I said, I know exactly what I want. And for example, I wanted big balconies on each floor, and each floor has a 1,000 square foot balcony. And I wanted that for the people that work in the building. So if they want to go out there and sit out there and have their lunch, they can have that. And there's actually 2 balconies on each floor. The other balcony is nowhere near as big, but you could go out there and sit and talk with somebody and smoke a cigar, whatever you want to. And so I just had this vision.
Well, it's come true.
It did come true.
It's really cool. Yeah, the space is great. You're sitting there watching jets land. It's right by the Addison Airport, and so you've got your your showroom on one floor.
So it's 5 stories.
Yeah.
First floor is parking garage. Second floor is a new business I'm starting. It's a private car club, and it's going to be a place for people to store their cars. But we're looking for really super hyper cars, collector cars, really special cars. The third floor, now this is interesting. The third floor is one of my very best friends that I met in EO. And
How many years ago? 20 years ago?
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
And you talk about a relationship, having a relationship all these years. And we've always stayed very good friends. And he is in the process. He sold his last company. He didn't cry when he sold his. I can tell you that right now. And he's manufacturing a $120,000 mattress.
Wow.
And so he's on the third floor. My company's the House of Baumann's on the 4th floor. And then my wife and I live on the 5th floor. And the concept of the building was that all 3 floors, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all can, what's the word I'm looking for, cater to a high wealth individual, each floor.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were looking, because, on the 2nd floor, I had, a lot of people that wanted to move in, take the floor, but I didn't want a real estate company. I didn't want an accounting firm. No, I wanted something that the high wealth individual could use that could be a benefit to them. And so that's what we've created. You have to see it. One of my favorite quotes is you have to see it before you see it, if you ever want to actually see it. And so, this was all in my mind years and years ago.
When do you think you came up with the idea? How long you been seeing it? Times of
I've been seeing it for 13 years.
yeah.
After I moved into the building I just moved out of, it was a couple years after that I really kept thinking, if I could have bought that building, I would have put in a staircase going to the 2nd floor and everything and made the showroom there.
Yeah.
But I knew I couldn't. And so it just kept evolving.
It's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful, and you actually have a vision for when you sell it, right? Who do
Yeah.
you think is going to buy it?
Well, so, I built the building. What we haven't talked about is I built the building. This is also funny, that you can drive a car any square foot in that building. And, I'll never forget about the 6th month of meeting with architects, structural engineers, everybody on designing this building. They'd always bring up, if we didn't have to drive a car, do you really have to have that? Why? And they'd always be trying to shut it down because, just the elevator was $500,000, and we had to build the building out of steel. It's all steel and concrete. It's very old style. And one day I just got sick and tired of bringing it up, and I just flat told them, next guy that brings it up, you're fired. And I said, you need to all understand something. No freight elevator, no car on every floor, no building. So just make the decision. But if somebody brings it up, because they would always, do we really have to? And I'm like, yes, it's my vision.
Yeah.
And so what's so cool is on our 4th floor, I have 3 shipping containers that are 20 feet long. We cut the sides out of them, and I can literally put a car inside one. I can put motorcycles in the other one. I can make them pop-up showrooms. So I can literally make, for 2 months, it could be our boot department.
That's cool.
But after that, it could be something else. It's always changing. And so because of our grand opening, Lamborghini was there. And they called me the very next day and said, we were blown away with your space. It's absolutely incredible. And we have our new flagship car coming out. And we'd like to do the unveiling of this car at your space.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
And so that's coming up here in a week. And so, yeah, to answer your question, my vision from day one is someday somebody's going to show up, some billionaire who has a car collection. He's going to be able to park his car collection on the second floor, have his family office on the third floor. I'll have to move Bob out. Now, wait a minute, Bob, settle down. Now, come on. And then take the fourth and fifth floor, make his residence out of it. And then have literally across the street his jets at the Addison airport. That's how I see one day buying the building. Yeah, it could be some company buying it, but that's the vision I have.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like it. I don't know where there's a building like it in the United States. I'm sure they exist. I know there's only one in Dallas, and it's down in it's in Highland Park.
Yeah.
So it's not near the airport, and it only holds like 12 cars. It's a 2-story building.
Yeah, it's super unique. And talk about seeing it before you build it. You've already seen.
I've already seen the guy that's buying it.
You've already seen
I'm
it.
living 5 years ahead.
And you
well, maybe 10.
You probably already know him.
You never know.
All right, rapid fire questions. I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but let's have some rapid fire questions. What is, if you had to invite 3 people living or dead to dinner party, who would it be?
Well, I'd invite, without a doubt, I'd invite Jesus. I'd invite my mom, because I haven't seen her in so long. And I'd invite Simon Peter.
Nice.
And the reason why is if you know anything about your Bible, Simon Peter was, I've been described that I'm a lot like him. He had a temper. He wanted to get things done.
Did he cuss?
I think he did cuss.
He probably did.
Hell if I know. No. But he was a mover and a shaker, and he made a lot of things happen with the disciples. And so that'd be the 3 people.
Nice. What's the weirdest thing about you?
Weirdest thing about me?
Yeah.
Probably I dress like shit when I'm at home.
You got to dress all day long, right? You got to get comfortable.
I don't care what I have on when I'm
Yeah.
at home. Yeah, and I'm like, if people saw the way I'm dressed right now, oh my God.
That's funny. Last question. What's your best takeaway from EO? What's one of your biggest takeaways, your best memories from EO, the time you're in?
Oh, best memories. I mean, I have so many of them.
I know.
So
Tough
many
question.
of them.
Tough
It
question.
is a tough question. I think it's the relationships. I mean, to sit there, it's a family. And, we're all at a point now, we're getting older. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, just in 2025, we've lost 2 very special members of that family.
We have.
And, it's like literally losing one of your family members, because we all have one thing in common. We all have a lot in common, but that we're all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so there is no one thing. It's the joy of life, the relationships, the fun, going on the trips that we have to take.
Yeah. Have to take them.
Right.
Once in a lifetime trips.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It seemed to repeat every year.
it's just the joy.
Yeah.
It was the joy. It was, without a doubt, top 3 greatest business experiences in my life, without any doubt.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for the time, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day. Really appreciate you taking the time. Love the story. Love the reflection back on EO, and love what you're doing with your building and the experience you built with the House of Baumann.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's my honor, and look forward to getting to know you better and the event.
I'm excited.
So,
Guys, thanks for joining us on the show. I just got to be honest with you, in the spirit of EO, this is my happy place. I love to sit here and talk to people about their experiences, get their perspectives, and really see what happens when we really slow down and we see those God-wink moments that brought us to where we are today. So take some time to do that today so you can move forward with gratitude. Thanks for joining us.
All right, perfect. We are clear.
Nailed it. Hey, good job.
amen.
Hey, Trey, I need like 5 minutes. You got it? You have anybody coming in after?
I'm not sure. Let me check. Let me check and see. Give me just a second.
We just got to talk about this event coming up. Good job. This is so fun. I sit here and do this all day. So good. more sit backed.
Okay. Yeah, we got 5. That should be fine.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Can you just roll?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the event, and then I'll kick it to you to talk about a little bit about the space. And,
Yeah,
you know,
I can
what
run
we're
with
trying
it.
to do. Yeah, we'll just roll with it. I'm trying to think. All right, let's see. Let's just roll with it.
Let's see, you need me to kick it off? No, I'm kidding. So now let me tell you.
Yeah,
No, the camera, over here.
Yeah, I'll throw it to you real quick. Hey, how we doing, EO Dallas alumni? As y'all have heard, we're going to have an amazing event on May 6th, the first ever alumni event in EO Dallas's history in over 30 years. We're really, really excited about it. And I just want to share the purpose and the reason behind it. You know, I think that EO was a very important part in all of our lives at a certain point in our journey. And I think as we get older and as we mature, I think there's an opportunity for that EO community to be important to you again. And so we're really excited about getting everybody together, getting around your people is what I like to call it, and really just having a fun event. And we have the host master, Mr. Bob Baumann. We're going to host it at his place in Addison, which is phenomenal. We just finished actually doing a Connecting the Journey show, and he talks about the place, but it is going to be awesome. And so, Bob, what's getting you excited about this event?
Well, I think it's going to be exciting to bring us all back together, to see a lot of old friends that you haven't seen in a long, long time. And just to catch up with one another, see where each other are, the relationships that we've still kept, the people we've stayed in touch with. There'll be plenty of people in the room that you may not have stayed in touch with, but there'll be those. And to see who's still connected with who, it's going to be a fun, fun time without any doubt.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Y'all probably got a message or a text or a phone call from Julie. Julie's helping to kind of get everybody back together. The feedback that she's given me is like everybody is so excited to get back together and hang out and catch up. And so just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, we are going to unveil an alumni program this night. We just want to get people back into the ecosystem. And we're also going to send a survey out, and please participate on what you would like to see in an alumni program. So all that's coming. Just want to give you a shout and say we're really looking forward to seeing y'all. Spread the word for us. We're at about 50 or 60 alumni already, and so we'd like to get that number to 100. So really excited to see everybody. Spread the word, and we'll see you on May 6th. Thanks.